Okay, let's get this over with. Hi, my name's Neo, and I'm a filmmaker, meaning that I write, shoot, and edit films for a living. That's what I do. And recently I made a video where I talked about how Marvel's formula when it came to making movies is starting to hurt the film industry by taking all creative power from the people that direct the movies and giving it to the studio instead. If you haven't seen the video, then click the link in the description now to go and watch it, because there's some pretty important knowledge in that video as well. Now, in that video, I mentioned how Marvel's success in not taking creative risk would eventually lead to other movie studios attempting to do the same. The prime example of this being the new Star Wars trilogy. Ever since George Lucas called it quits, Disney's made Star Wars thematically basic. Basic plot lines, basic writing, and a third act that goes on for 20 minutes longer than it needs to. And just like how people were quick to drink the Marvel formula Kool-Aid, people really seem to not mind the new watered-down version of Star Wars. It seems like every internet movie critic that reviews these movies all say the same thing. Well, the new trilogy is better than the prequels, but they're nowhere near as good as the original. Which, if you ask me, if you already know that nothing's going to surpass the original trilogy, is there really any point in continuing to make more of these goddamn movies? But with that aside, I'm getting tired of people acting as though Star Wars is somehow better now that George Lucas is off the project. Now, I'm a huge George Lucas fan, and if you ask me, I think that Star Wars is probably the worst thing that he's ever created. Not saying that the movies are bad, just saying that I don't like them. Which is an important distinction to make, since not too many film critics here on YouTube ever do. And as a filmmaker, I believe it's important to separate the production's talent from what your own personal opinions are. Now, people always give George Lucas all this shit for making the prequels, but the majority of people that say this don't really understand what it means to be a filmmaker. See, George Lucas has always been about innovation. Like when he made American Graffiti and he originally tried to shoot it using all natural light. George Lucas made the Star Wars prequels because he saw it as a chance to innovate. Not only was this a chance for him to see exactly how far he could take Star Wars now that he had a much bigger budget, but Star Wars Episodes 1 and 2 were some of the first movies to ever be shot entirely on digital cameras. If it weren't for George Lucas, and also Robert Rodriguez, then digital cinema wouldn't be nearly as advanced as it is today. And people tend to praise the original trilogy for its technical achievements in CGI, puppeteering, and practical effects, but the reality is that the majority of special effects techniques used in those movies aren't really used that much anymore. I mean, looking back at the effects in the original trilogy, they really do look like shit, but they have a certain charm to them. The CGI in the prequels looks like shit too, but again, it has a charm to it. The only difference is that not enough time has really passed for the look of early 2000s CGI to really be viewed as nostalgic yet by the general public. And because of that, people still fail to acknowledge that the Star Wars prequels did a lot more for the world of digital cinematography than the original trilogy did. Now, were the prequels really all that great in terms of story? No, not really. But I like the Star Wars prequels more than the original trilogy because it's what I was introduced to first. Those films hold a more personal significance to me than the original trilogy does. It's the same reason why I like Jurassic Park 3 more than I like the first two, even though the first two are much more well made. And yet you have these 30-year-old man-children on YouTube trying to make younger people feel stupid for liking the prequels without realizing that the prequels is the only Star Wars that most of these people ever grew up with. And I'm not saying that these critics shouldn't be allowed to make these types of videos for the sake of entertainment, but there really is this sense that these people are making movies without really knowing where they came from or why they have the things that they do. These critics are really quick to give the prequels 1 or 2 out of 10 scores, and when I see them doing stuff like that, it shows me that most of them have never been to a film festival or seen a student film. If you think the prequels are bad, try sitting through any student film at a local film festival, and you'll quickly realize exactly what a 1 out of 10 actually looks like. In all actuality, the whole prequel trilogy gets a 5 out of 10. The 5 being the innovation that these movies brought to the world of digital cinematography, and the 5 lacking being the fact that the script is, you know, whatever. Original trilogy is like a 7 out of 10. New trilogy is probably the worst of the series because even though the screenplay is better than the prequels, they took George Lucas's entire vision and basically turned it into a fan film. And that's pretty much what they are. All of the original crew that worked on Star Wars basically said, hey, we don't want to do this anymore, and now we have Disney hiring an entirely new crew of people, most of whom are a lot younger than George Lucas and most likely grew up watching Star Wars, and now they're the driving force behind producing it. And since Lucas isn't bringing his bright ideas to these new movies, there's nothing revolutionary about the new trilogy. No new technology is being put to the forefront. And yet people say these films are better than the prequels but complain about it being too different from the original trilogy. I guarantee you that most of these people are just angry that Star Wars didn't turn out the way that they thought it would in their little fantasies. I said this before, but they're not paying to see something different. They're paying to have the same feeling that watching Star Wars gave them when they were first introduced to it. Wow, you guys made it different and I don't like that. Make it the way I like it. Make it the way it used to be. Make it like how it was before my parents got the divorce. If you wanted Star Wars to stay exactly like how it was, then maybe you shouldn't have talked so much shit on the one guy that basically built the entire trilogy from the ground up when he decided that his movies weren't made just for you. All of these old people are just bitter because new Star Wars didn't give them the same nostalgic feeling that old Star Wars did. Me, on the other hand, I'm one of the only people that literally gives zero shits about how true the new movies stay to the original. I was literally 5 years old when episode 3 came out, so the original movies mean basically nothing to me. Like, check this guy out. Disney doesn't understand lightsabers. If this is the kind of content you're making, then you seriously need to just get a fucking life.